Ready to fly, Roger. Roger, Roger.
Yeah, let me hide.
Roger. Oh, where'd he go?
Oh, is it time already?
It is time already. Shall we get
Time
this,
flies.
as we say in America, shall we get this show on the road?
Let's hit the road, Jack.
Jack. All right, here we go.
Daily Tech News Show is powered by its audience, not outside organizations. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, November 15th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today on Tuesdays, Patrick Beja is my co-pilot. How's it going, Patrick?
So I'm plagued by the convention flu, I think, from BlizzCon 10 days ago. So if I inadvertently sneeze during the show, I hope you'll excuse me.
I hope you'll hear the world say Gesundheit or whatever it is in their local language.
I hope so too.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear you're illin, but thank you for persevering and coming on the show. We have a topic that is dominating the news cycles, not just in technology news, this idea of fake news. And before you turn off your podcast, just know we're not going to talk about the election. Obviously, we're going to mention the election because that is the impetus for people discussing this idea of whether false news is getting out on Facebook too much or whatever. But mostly, I think what I wanted to talk about, and Patrick too, is how to identify good news sources. Not good news as in like, you know, a monkey helped a woman cross the street, but like quality news that you can rely on.
That news item would definitely need our attention as well. I'm gonna
maybe I'll use that as an example because that's when I'd be like, I want to see a few more sources on this first before I pass it along. So that's what we're going to talk about in our main discussion. Little tidbits. WhatsApp is going to roll out video calling to its Android, Windows, and iOS apps in the next few days. Intel's going to sink $250 million into autonomous cars, not building cars, but tech for them. DJI introduced the obstacle-avoiding $1,500 Phantom 4 Pro and the $3,000 Inspire 2 unmanned aerial vehicles. You might call them drones. Those are available now if you'd like to order them. Now, here are some more top stories. Twitter updated its policy Tuesday to allow anyone to report abusive content for removal. Before, you could report spam, but you could only be the target of abusive content if you wanted to report it. Twitter also promises its support team will deal with reports more quickly and more sensitively. Twitter also introduced mute words. That is an expanded mute function for notifications. So you can say, I don't want any notifications if the post contains this particular keyword or set of keywords. You can also drop out of notifications if you get caught in one of those long threads. Sometimes they call them canoes, where there's like 16 people replied. You can say, you know what, I don't need to be notified about that anymore as well. And these will be rolling out, as we said, over the next few days.
This is, Twitter keeps trying to do this in very slow steps. I think it's probably a good idea. I'm talking mainly about the harassment elements, but actually the muting and notifications might be part of it. I keep thinking that they should do more in the position we're in the West, in countries where freedom of speech is kind of a given. And every time I try to think of the consequences if they went a little bit too far and if they required identification and things like that, like Facebook does, using real names, stuff like that. And it poses problems in countries where free speech is not as readily available. So it's always something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I really like the idea of dropping out of one of those canoe things, because the few times I've been caught up in one, it's usually not harassment or abuse. Thankfully, I'm lucky enough in that respect. But it's usually something where I just don't care anymore. Like two other people are arguing over something, and I just got caught in it because I happened to be in early in the conversation when maybe it wasn't so contentious. So saying, you know what, I don't need a notification popping up every time those two are arguing. Yes, totally for that. Mute words is handy, but could go wrong unintentionally for yourself. Like there are synonyms and homonyms and things like that. So it's one of those things where I don't fault Twitter for handing it over as a tool, but it's something you yourself, you're going to leave yourself out of some conversations unintentionally, perhaps.
Yeah, and to go back to the canoes, as you're calling them, I didn't know that was the term. It's always interesting because you don't know if you should remove the person that isn't really actively participating anymore, if it's kind of impolite because you're sort of dropping them, or if you should, so maybe that's a good solution.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on the side of the two people arguing, right? If you drop the other person out, I mean, they can still see the conversation and join back in, but it is sort of saying, well, you're not part of this anymore. And at what point do you decide that for that person? So then, and again, this is all just notifications. Some people are going to complain this isn't going far enough because it doesn't take it out of your timeline. If you're going to your timeline, it just stops it from popping up on your phone.
Yeah. Well, Google has introduced PhotoScan for iOS and Android, meant to scan your physical photos into digital versions. The process involves one photo to identify the corners and then 4 more with which the app guides you to take focusing on each corner. So one general and one for each corner after that. It then stitches them together into a high-quality digital image.
Yeah, and if you watch the way it works, you don't actually go to the corner of the photo. You just go up into the corner. The idea is that you want to get 4 pictures of 4 different parts of the photo so that it can do things like eliminate glare and things like that without losing any of the resolution of the photo. And then you can add it to Google Photos. You can put filters on it, all kinds of stuff like that. It's not terribly fast. This isn't going to be as good as an actual physical scanner that would just, run through all of your photos, but it's certainly better than trying to take pictures of them yourself and line it up perfectly and get a good quality image of the piece of paper that you're trying to take a picture of.
Yeah, it's probably not something that you're going to be using to digitize, the hundreds of photos that you've had since the 60s, for those of us who have been around that long. But it is faster than actually trying to align it and take the right quality and, the right frame and all of this. It's good. It's probably good for people who want to keep, 10, 20, maybe 50 photos that they've selected from their big collections. And that's already something.
Yeah. And I could see there have been a few times where I needed to take a picture of something. This is kind of a silly example, but when I did the Pretend I'm Dumb About Star Wars series that I did back in the fall, I had a photo that I had taken with a Kodak disc camera in the 80s of several Star Wars figures that I had got for my birthday. And so I had to take my camera and line it up and try to get, it's not a great quality photo to begin with because it was a disc camera, right? But I needed to make it as non-glary as possible. This would have been great for that because I wouldn't have had to think about it so much. Just, 4 corners, scan it in, and I've got the best quality representation of it I could get.
And the chat room caught on to the fact that I'm actually from the 70s, not the 60s. So, no, I'm not that old.
Well, I don't mean to embarrass you, but what year?
73.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're saying age is well, see, because I like to say I was born in the 60s sometimes and then pull that thing where
you're like
technically 1970 is the last year of the 60s. And then people who are actually born in the 60s tell me to buzz off because they're baby boomers, and I'm not. Security firm CryptoWire found software from Chinese company Shanghai AdUps sends full contents of text messages, contact lists, call logs, location information, and other data to a Chinese server every 72 hours. AdUp says its software runs on more than 700 million Android devices, can be found on products from Huawei and ZTE. Most of the affected models, according to CryptoWire, were prepaid or disposable phones. These are low-end Android devices. US-based Blue discovered the software on 120,000 phones and has since removed it through a software update. AdUps told the New York Times the software was not meant for the U.S. market. It says it was written for an unnamed Chinese company who wanted the data for customer support reasons, things like identifying junk text messages and calls. Coincidentally, AdUps also provides big data services to clients as well. So obviously, a lot of people are going to jump to the conclusion of Chinese spying from the government side, but I would guess it's more likely that this was just good old-fashioned adware.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult to not get suspicious. And the justification of its identifying junk text messages and calls, it's kind of, yeah, maybe, but that's probably not the most likely explanation, you know?
No, I don't for a minute believe that the only reason was to block text messages from disposable phones. I mean, maybe that's one of the things they were trying to do, but this is a big data company. They work with other big data companies. It's called ad ups. Let's be honest. They were tracking as much data as they could for advertising reasons and knew they could get away with it in their home country and possibly other countries. Didn't mean for it to go to the United States because they knew they'd be an illegal quagmire if it did.
Yeah, and I don't want to be anti conspiration, but it wouldn't surprise me either if the Chinese government had access to all of these as well.
Right. Maybe not the most likely scenario, but it is a scenario that is not impossible. So,
Yeah.
it does raise an eyebrow just as much as any kind of data that is being collected in the United States without proper, disclosure would make people think that the CIA and the NSA could be looking at it as well.
Yeah, I'd go a step farther and say it's a little, not just as much, a little bit more likely, but that's just my opinion.
Let's talk about something fun.
Yes, Super Mario Run will arrive on iOS devices December 15 for $10. It's a one-time fee with no in-app purchases. Users can download a free demo to try before paying for the full game. People with iOS 8 or later will be able to buy the game in 151 countries. An Android version will come at some point in the future, according to Nintendo.
Now, Mitomo was a hit for a while. Apparently, some people still use it. Pokemon Go, huge monster hit, not directly Nintendo's, and also, its audience has definitely consolidated to a much smaller audience. This will be the first big test of Nintendo on iOS. This is Mario. This is Mario coming to your phone.
And a lot of people are reacting like Tinvek is reacting in the chat room right now, basically saying, $10 for an endless runner? And so I don't know if I can take credit for this one. Maybe not take credit, but at least say I told you so. That was the price I predicted a few months ago when it was announced. I think $10 is a price that is absolutely fair for a game that is a real game. Phones have been plagued with free-to-play games that are, trying to cash in on you at every turn, that have often a level of quality and polish that is questionable at best. This is a different kind of approaching games. It's a console manufacturer that often sells its games at a premium, that has immense brand recognition, and it's an event. As you said, it's the first actual Nintendo and Mario game on the console. So it's not that surprising. It's more expensive than similar games in a similar target. So I do think that this signals, hopefully, a way for actual core game developers to approach the market by creating great core gaming experiences for core gamers and not just pastime games that anyone can play if they have 2 minutes. That being said, and I'll finish on that, $10 is a starting price. I think the reason why I thought it was going to be that price is that you are going to have some people that will be willing to pay that price. And the price can go down after a couple of months. They can have, promotions and temporary price drops. They can't start selling it for $7.99 or $4.99 and then hike the price up if they realize it's super popular. Yeah. So to me, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, and Tinvek, again, says, if this is extremely Mario-like, I'll be in. If it's a Mario skin jungle run, then nope. And that's why the fact that they're giving you a free demo to download where you can play 3 different aspects of the game shows that they're confident that they can sway you on that. They're going to let you play it for free to try it out, to go, hey, look, this isn't just Jungle Run. At least that's their hope. and hopefully get you to convert to paying $10, because that's it. Once you pay the $10, you can play this forever. There's no in-app purchases. There's no, trying to trick you into buying gems or coins or anything like that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not going to be a full Mario experience because you don't have a pad, and it's also, a fourth or a sixth of the price of a full Mario game. So you shouldn't expect that. However, from what we've seen, we don't know yet because we haven't played the actual game, but from what we've seen, it does seem like it is a little bit more satisfying for a core gamer than something like a regular endless runner would be. So
I'm going to try the demo. There's no reason not to if you're all
everyone
interested
will.
in this. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? The demo, no one will not try it. I think that's a given. So
unless you just have a dark cinder-like heart, in which case we understand. The U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has introduced a rule that electric and hybrid cars must make an audible noise when the car is in operation at less than 19 miles per hour. Patrick, this will please you. The rule actually states 30 kilometers per hour, and then they
yes.
Car makers must have half of all new cars that they sell in compliance by September 1st, 2018, and all new vehicles must have the system starting September 1st, 2019. Europe has a similar rules. Car makers have until July 1st, 2019 to fit all new models of hybrid and pure electric vehicles with the mandatory acoustic vehicle alerting system, while all existing models have another 2 years to have it installed aftermarket. The U.S. is letting older models just get away without it, but they are saying that you got to start putting it in, and all cars after 2019, September 1st, will have to have it. It does not stipulate in the press release from the from the NHTSA what the noise should sound like. There are way too many words in the actual notice for proposed rulemaking about what the noise could sound like, but it does seem like it would be similar to the backup noise that trucks make, the beep beep beep, which when you're going, there's a few neighborhoods around here that have a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on streets. How annoying is that? If every car going down the street is going to be going beep, 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 beep.
It is incredibly annoying. I think we'd be much better served by some kind of microtransaction for you to purchase a song that you could use as the sound of your car running. That would be an excellent, a boon to the music industry, again, that's losing so much money in other markets. So I think, they've tried it with ringtones and things like that. It's time that we play, I don't know, put a ring on it when you're driving your electric car, for example. It's just an example.
I know for a fact there are NHTSA people in the audience. So if you can interpret your rules and send us some less annoying sounds that fit the rules, I bet they exist. I bet you could do more of a motorish sounding noise and still meet the guidelines. There's a lot of room in them. But the BBC in particular was the one who said that the noise would sound like a backup noise. I think that's the only part of this that bothers me. I guess it bothers me a little that we're going to make cars noisier. But I do understand that I myself have scared people in a hybrid before because it was in all electric mode at the time, and I started creeping forward and they didn't hear it.
Yeah, no, I definitely think beep is not the right way to go. Beeping is not the right way to go. But just the sound of a quiet motor would be fine. For some time, we had a lot of skeuomorphism or it's an occasion to get futuristic, science fiction vehicle sounds everywhere. Well, not that, but maybe like the Millennium Falcon, for example.
Dude, no, I want a TIE fighter sound in my car.
Maybe a little bit less loud than a TIE fighter.
Well, yeah, the volume. There is a max on the volume, obviously. So that's part of it too.
And finally, Bloomberg reports sources tell it Apple is considering making augmented reality glasses. The product is in the exploration phase and could connect wirelessly to an iPhone. Apple has apparently spoken with suppliers about the product, ordering small amounts of displays for testing. Apple has purchased several AR companies, including PrimeSense, which developed motion sensing for the Microsoft Kinect.
Now, Bloomberg has sources on this, and Bloomberg has, and we're going to be talking a lot about this in just a minute. Bloomberg has a good track record on finding these sorts of sources. So I also think this fits the facts. I absolutely believe Apple is investigating this. Why would they buy Prime Sense if they weren't? So that just makes perfect sense. This is a Mark Gurman story, right? However, I think the really interesting thing is, can they pull it off? Right. The story says that they are what? What do they say? They're in the
exploration
phase. Exactly. This is where the iPod was when they had Tony Fadell. And they said, okay, can we turn your software into something that is deserving of Apple? And they were able to do it. This is where iPhone was. They had purchased some other companies, and they said, can we take these pieces of these companies? Can we make a phone? And they did. Will they be able to do that with glasses, with PrimeSense and the other software companies that they've bought? This is where Apple finally, forget MacBook Pros. I know people got all upset about that, but laptops are actually commoditized. There is not that much you can do with them. Phones very fast becoming that. This is a new product that plenty of people have tried in dorky and awkward ways and have not made work, and some people think could never be made work, and that's exactly where Apple can step in and shine if they are still up to the snuff that everyone seems to doubt that they are still up to.
I'm very, very skeptical. I think it's been shown with, the Google Glass, I guess, and even Microsoft HoloLens, that it's a difficult thing to get people. HoloLens has its fans, but it's kind of difficult to get people to envision an actual everyday use case. By the way, I see you in the chat room says Apple invents glasses, which I think would be amazing. We've
well, yeah, no, it fits the pattern, right? Apple invents the phone, ha ha ha.
But I really don't think we're going to see anything, from this for at least a couple of years. At least, this is not until 2019, possibly 2020, if it ever comes to fruition. It's very early still.
Well, and the question is not what would Steve Jobs do, as far as I'm concerned. The question is not can they innovate without Steve Jobs. The question is, can they repeat the success? Steve Jobs was an essential part of putting the limiting factors on previous products that made them successful. Can they still do that? But also, can they come up with the idea that's like, oh, this is what makes it usable. This is what makes it different. This is what makes it finally a successful type of product that people will want to buy. And yeah, you're right. This isn't going to come out for several years if it comes out at all. And it's not the only product that Apple's working on that could fit that definition. But it's the first one that caught my imagination and said, the car stuff feels like almost enterprisey. This feels like the kind of thing you would expect Apple to come out on stage, show off, and stun people because they've cracked it.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Are they going to crack this thing that no one is really seeing as a mass market thing yet? And to be honest, I mean, I know it's always difficult to see the thing before it actually happens, but phones, we all had some kind of an itch for something that was better than the phones we had. Digital music players as well. Tablets, it was somewhere. I think this is a little bit farther out in the, yes, this could be made into something we want and need. Maybe it's because we've been burned by Google Glass, but I don't know.
I felt the same way about tablets when the iPad came out. So I feel like it's fairly close to that. But yeah, it's not exactly the same. Every product is different. It's good. Very, very good point. Thanks to all those who participate in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We thank everybody for getting in there and voting. Okay, so the election has spawned a lot of discussion in the United States about the quality of news. Google and Facebook have announced policy changes to discourage the spread of false news. Google said that it will restrict ad serving on sites that misrepresent, misstate, or conceal information about the publisher, the publisher's content, or the primary purpose of the web property. So that leaves The Onion out. The Onion says we're fake news. We're not trying to pretend to be anything else. And so funny places like that can still exist. This is like, if you're trying to deceive people, we're not going to let you make money off of it. So they're trying to cut off the funds. Facebook also clarified that its ban on displaying ads in sites that contain deceptive and misleading content includes these same kind of sites. Gizmodo reported on Monday that Facebook nixed an update that would identify hoax stories in your news feed because it disproportionately impacted conservative news sources. Facebook denies this. They say, we did not build and withhold any newsfeed changes based on their potential impact on any one political party. So, leaving aside the question of whether fake news had any effect on the U.S. election or not, we'll let you discuss that. It's a fair discussion topic. We'll let you discuss that in another arena. We all know that we've been bitten by a story we thought was true, or we've seen someone pass along a story to us that we got excited about for a moment, we thought was true, and then found out later that it wasn't. So, Patrick, I think our essential question here is not just in relation to the U.S. election, but in relation to online news in general. When there are millions of sources, how do you make sure that what you're reading is reliable?
Well, that's really the big. I mean, even before that question, just to insist on that fact again, this is not about politics. It's really about how the internet and the abundance of communication and sharing of communication is affecting the media and news dissemination. And I think we can all agree, regardless of our political leanings, that having inaccurate news be passed as truthful is hurtful for society, for democracy, for just our general awareness of what's happening around us. So this is an important question, and it shouldn't be bogged down by whether or not this is politics.
Yeah, in fact, I deal with it every day in tech news. I'm always have people sending me a story, including many close friends, like, did you hear Apple's going to do this? And I have to dig in and point out, like, well, hold on. It says that one person told this blog over here that Apple might not do that. That's a whole different ball game than Mark Gurman at Bloomberg saying he has two sources who tell him that Apple might do something.
Yeah, so I think there are two elements in this. First is how do we as people and a species evolve into a mode of thinking that allows us to see and detect these kinds of things? And the second element is, can tech itself be made to evolve as well to help us detect these kinds of things?
Yeah,
I think the first one is really important. I'll let you go into the details there because you're more proficient in those things.
Well, it's my job every day to figure that out, and there's more than I'll have time to lay out in this show that I think are good practices, and maybe I'll take some time and put those in our weekly tech update that goes out to the patrons. But in general, it's paying attention to what you're reading. I feel like we're in a transition period where a lot of us grew up in a world where there were only a few news sources. Remember, Fox News isn't even that old. Back in the 90s, you had CNN and the major broadcast networks. That was pretty much it. You had a daily newspaper in your hometown as far as print news went, and you had a couple of radio stations, but really they sort of drafted on what TV and the papers were doing. So it wasn't hard to know the biases or the foibles of your news sources then. Nowadays, everyone acts like, oh, well, this is a news site, so I'm going to trust that it is the same as, my hometown paper was in the 1980s. And it's not. I see people doing this all the time. Well, I found it on this news site. I'm like, what news site? I just registered this domain to spreadnews.com is not a good news site. So look very carefully. And as Tinvik said, it's not about fake news. It's just less reliable news. I think reliability is the more important. Fake news is easy to identify. If you've never heard of the site before, then it's probably worth your skepticism and looking. This is the easiest thing in the world. Look to see if anyone else reported it. Anyone else you recognize reported it. I do this in tech news all the time. Somebody will send me a link and it'll be like, Android Forever Blaster.com. And I'm like, all right. Who are they linking to? Let's say they link to Eurogamer. Then all of a sudden I just go to Eurogamer. I'm like, okay, I trust those guys. Let me read what they did over there. If they don't link out to any,
just to expand on this, over time, once that Android Forever site has been reliable to you a few times, you start trusting it.
Totally.
It doesn't mean that you always have to go to the one, that's how you build trust.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not saying never pay attention to a news source. I'm constantly changing my sources. I curate a very small number of news sources in my RSS feeds, and I drop them out over time if they become less useful. Usually they don't become less reliable, but maybe they become less useful, and I add them in as I find new ones that are very useful. TechInAsia.com is one that I added maybe a year and a half ago that I was not familiar with, but over time they kept showing up with really good stuff that they got first that turned out to be true, and I went with that. So just look around, pay attention, look for another source, and before you believe something that's very important to you, and whether that's technology news or some other kinds of news. I know this sounds like work, and it is, and maybe it's too much work, in which case, then find somebody who aggregates the news for you. I know a lot of you listen to this show for exactly that reason, but there are plenty of aggregators out there. Maybe TechMeme is a good one for you. I find them very reliable. Google News is okay. It's algorithmically generated, so people can game the system sometimes. I don't trust that one as much. And certainly Reddit is informative, but you have to put the same skeptical eye on links that people share on Reddit that you do on anything else. So it's up to you to curate that list. But maybe if you curate your list, maybe you create an RSS reader, or you just have a few bookmarks, places you go regularly, you'll start to be able to do this without having to think so hard.
So all of this is really great, but it's also, as you said, a lot of work. And I think that this might be, as it's all well and good when we're actually working towards building a program that we want to be reliable. I think it's a different story when you're just browsing Facebook or Googling something or on Twitter, and you're just seeing what people are sharing.
Right. The old point, I read the headline and it said this.
And actually, I tweeted something a few hours ago. I said, we live in a headline culture. I think this is really key. Our culture is now headlines. And I think we have to train ourselves to go beyond the headline culture. I'm going to repeat this until it becomes a thing. And it can be traced back to this episode. So we have to evolve beyond the headline culture. But it's not that easy. And I think technology can play a role in that. There was an article in Business Insider, which was interesting because it was basically encompassing all of the issues at once. It was basically, the headline was, it took only 36 hours for these students to solve Facebook's fake news problem, which is interesting because it was during a hackathon, I believe, that 4 students created an algorithm that was it's really clever. It's an algorithm that determines how reliable a news item or link is, depending on a number of factors. I'm not going to get into details, but it's pretty cleverly done. The thing is, as clever as it is, I'm pretty sure Facebook could have thought of this as well. They're not idiots either. And there are probably other factors that are the reasons why they didn't just implement this and close down the entire conversation. Similarly, Google has been accused of the same issue. And I'm sure, they know algorithms. They could do it. But it does pose the question, do we need to have, I don't think it would be binary. I don't think we can say, well, if a news item is determined to be fake, then it should be removed entirely from your feed for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it's not always just fake or not fake. As you said, there are levels of interpretation and of truthfulness. And second of all, because I do think that the best way of doing it is letting people decide whether or not they're doing it, but helping them in that decision. And the way I look at it, a sort of ranking of reliability on news items that might be controversial could be very helpful, because basically having technology or whoever, human curation, I don't know, but something that does what you were talking about just now for you, at least as a preliminary way of helping you figure it out. So I do think that technology can help us there. And I'll go even farther. That's maybe a little bit of my opinion. I think we need it. I think it's the responsibility of these technology companies that are almost media companies now, Facebook, Twitter, even Google, they are disseminating media. So I think we need help in evaluating not just how popular something is, but in the case of news, how reliable it is as well.
Yeah, I like this idea because the Chrome extension that those students made, by the way, 2 of them from the University of Illinois, well done. I don't think is meant to be 100%. Like you just run this Chrome extension and you'll never see a mistaken article again. It's going to have its false positives from time to time. I don't think they'd deny that, and it's going to miss some things from time to time. But a reliability scale like you're talking about, I think is fantastic. I think it's almost essential to say like, oh, this is a very reliable source. This one, not so much. This one we don't know anything about. And so you're not even saying necessarily don't believe the story. You're saying if you see the green meter, the 100% reliable, then you don't have to have the cognitive load is easier on you. You can go with that. Everyone pretty much agrees that you can have your opinions, but the story is probably going to have accurate stuff in it. Likewise, if it's unknown, that doesn't mean it's wrong. It means, you know what, you should look and pay attention and do all those things we were talking about earlier to make sure what's in that story is accurate and actually true, rather than pass them around. Now, there's 2 things. One is this is all sounds like dieting to people, right? Nobody wants to do any of this. They're like, no, but it's more fun to just read the headline and spread it along. I'm not really being serious. Take yourself seriously. That's all I would say is yeah, you may not have to like do what I do for a story every day, because that's why people like me do this. But don't absolve yourself of the responsibility of passing along a headline. If you're going to pass it along and put your stamp on it, know that your stamp carries weight with people, with other people that you're talking to. And I would say that, it's important to know that it's not just other people. I think a lot of us, when we think about this, and especially when we're talking about politics, think, well, no, I can always tell the fake news stories, but what's going to stop those other idiots from believing it? And you know what? It starts with you. You're only responsible for yourself, is what I would say.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, it is something where it takes a little bit on all of us, and it does. It's kind of, in these times, we sort of look at the society in a broader sense, but I think it's not uncalled for. And we are the constituting elements of society, and it is made up of all of us. And when we change it that little bit further. I think it's not, it's fair that we are getting trapped in this fake news thing because the world and the means of communications are changing, but it's also not uncalled for to react to it and to react to it accurately. I think also that in that we're drowning in information. Again, it is not uncalled for to have something to help us in technology. And if you can have that meter and you click on it and maybe it explains to you how it arrived to that conclusion about the reliability of the news story, it would help everyone do that. It's not easy to do to go diet, but if you have motivations, friends, apps that will help you track it, it makes it easier. So all of this together could be beneficial to society as a whole, and I think we need to think about it very seriously.
Yeah, TVZ God in the chat room said, only you can prevent fake news, which is funny. But also, I mean, the whole reason that became Smokey the Bear's slogan was that everyone said, well, I don't start forest fires. Why is it my problem? Right? It was like, well, no, someone does. Maybe you didn't start one today, but your behaviors are the things that lead to forest fires. And likewise, don't just say, well, it's their problem to fix for other people. There are things you can do to reduce the problem as well. That doesn't absolve them of their responsibility either.
And, I'll be completely honest. I've retweeted a couple of completely fake news in the past couple of weeks. Thankfully, I have enough followers and people that told me, hey, dude, this is like, just look at and I could have known it was fake if I had just paid attention for a couple of seconds. Seriously, it was nothing, and I didn't do it because I'm so used to it. So I think it takes training, it takes getting used to the way things work now, and we all have to be better, and me included. So I'm not pointing the finger.
Dude, I used to run a fake news site. That's how I got started on the web. It was avowedly fake, like The Onion, but still, like I always felt bad when on a couple of occasions people took my story seriously, and I was like, well, no, this is parody, this is satire. So yeah, we can all be better about this. Let's finish with a message of the day from Marlon in Trinidad. We were talking about music services yesterday, and we've gotten some great feedback. I'll probably sprinkle more of these out through the future shows. But Marlon said, you know what is the one killer feature for me in a music service? That the service is available in your country. Now, Marlon he says, as a Google fanboy. And let me tell you, every time there's an Android story, Marlon posts a comment that is very insightful and very, very much explaining how the Android ecosystem works. He is not just a Google fanboy. He is experienced in the Google universe. And he says, as much as it pains me to admit it, Apple has been the only one who has it together, and all its music services are available in more places than any other service I know. I hate that I have to jump through hoops and literally break the terms of service of other services to get access to it in my country. So he's like, you know what? Maybe Apple Music is my choice because here I am in Trinidad and it works there.
Yeah, it's very interesting to hear this. For music, we usually have decent access in France and Europe in general. For video, it's kind of another story, and so I might have similar comments as Marlon does for those services. So,
well, thank you, Marlon. He posted that, by the way, on the blog, dailytechnewsshow.com. Thank you, Patrick Beja. A good conversation as always, my friend. What else you got going on to let folks know about?
So if you do want to hear about politics and discussions that hopefully will be had in a reasonable and informed and agreeable manner, we're going to be recording the next episode of the Phileas Club in just a few days on Friday. And we will absolutely, of course, discuss the U.S. election. As usual in that show, we'll do it in a way that is respectful and hopefully... I hesitate to say neutral because I think that term is loaded, but yeah, respectful and insightful. So go check out the Phileas Club, subscribe. It's available at frenchspin.com and in every good podcast app. It's called the Phileas Club.
And by the way, if you're unfamiliar with the show, I was on with a liberal and a conservative, and I guess I was the dirty moderate with Patrick earlier in the year talking about the election. Patrick also has made a point of interviewing someone who is in favor of Brexit, interviewing a fundamentalist Christian conservative in respectful ways to make sure that he's getting the other side of the views from his own and some of the people that he associates with regularly. So don't assume that because you think you know what Patrick thinks, which you might be surprised on some of the things he thinks, that you know what you're getting into when you check this out. This is for people who want to have an open mind about all sides of issues, and I think that's fantastic.
Thank you for the added comment. I want to mention as well, this is not about convincing anyone or even agreeing with the people you initially disagree with. I don't think the point is that you listen to the show and all of a sudden you're going to think, oh, I didn't realize how wrong I was. Hopefully, however, when you listen to the show, you get, oh, well, maybe the person I thought was the devil incarnate isn't as bad as I thought they were. Or, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but knowing what people think doesn't necessarily mean agreeing, but it's still very important to listen to one another.
The Phileas Club. It's Phileas. Or you can go to Frenchman.com. Just find it there. Big thanks to everyone who supports us. It's the only reason we exist. dailytechnewsshow.com/support. We'll tell you all the different ways to support the show if you're not already. If you are, thank you, and help me welcome all of our brand new patrons, including Tim Pliant, Paul Malingowski, and huge thanks to Adam Burke, Tony Glass, and Dave Borgo, who are among the awesome folks who who just raised their pledge. Thanks to everybody who has been supporting the show, becoming new patrons, raising their amounts. You guys are the best. Patreon.com/DTNS. Okay, one more thing. It's the last thing I'm going to ask of you today. I promise. Roger needs your help. He's making that best of show at the end of the year. We've gotten 8 people send us best ofs at bit.ly/bestofdtns. All we're asking is tell us your favorite segment. Most of the people who've done it have given us time code, which is great. But even if you just know the episode number and date, that helps. bit.ly/bestofdtns. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Nicely done. I think that was a good conversation,
Excellent.
right?
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay, good. This one's hard for me to tell because I'm so close to the topic where I'm like, oh, I got so much to say because this is literally what I've done every day for more than 10 years is figure out like what are the actual stories that I can believe? What are the actual facts of the situation?
It might have been a little bit pleady more than newsy, but I think again it's not uncalled for.
Okay.
You know, it's this is if there was ever a time to part just a little bit from our usual sternness, or you know, this would be it, and it was for a good cause.
I would plead with you to forgive us.
Titles?
Yes, Roger.
Only you can prevent fake news, Tom. Only you. No one else. The sound of silent cars. I guess that's
of silent
good news, everyone. Slow cars.
I like that one too.
Good news, everyone.
Good news, everyone.
Fake book news.
Ooh,
It's kind of accusatory.
Yes. So it's not even implied.
Not Patrick submitted. We live in a headline culture. I assume not Patrick also voted that one.
possibly.
Jumpman going forward. Apple glasses, self-singing cars. Do electric cars driving slowly sound like sheep?
I like that one, Shane.
Hashtag stop abuse. FUD phones. Super cheap brothers. Take yourself seriously. All the algorithms that's fit to print. Actually, kind of like that one. Who knew True News was still a thing? Some of these feel like Jeopardy categories. Apple invents class. And finally, potpourri. Shut the tweet up. Fake news is fake. Faux feed. Don't believe that news, it's fake. Does Mario have
I think only you can prevent fake news is pretty good. If you get the reference, I had to look it up. I think people outside the US might not get it, but it's still impactful.
Well, I'm sure people who, they don't have anti-forest fire thingies and.
Well, I'm sure they do, but they don't have that specific tagline.
There's not like a koala in Australia that says only you can prevent forest.
Maybe. I'm gonna have to leave the suspense until you publish the show. I'm just gonna retire.
Do you have a last vote before you retire for the night?
Well, outside of we live in a headline culture, it would be only you can prevent fake news.
All right, cool.
But I do think that headline culture should really become a thing. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And,
no, it's the successor to soundbite culture, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and the sad thing is typically the headlines aren't written by the writer who writes the article.
I was in charge of writing headlines at CNET.
You can tell. There was a lot of puns.
Nah, that was not that many puns, was it?
All right. You guys enjoy your day.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. Feel better.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
That's how you track down. You can't leave a pun unuttered. Like if you were on the run, they would just have to use a bullhorn and say something. You would have to pun it. Quick, Come up with a title. Let's see if we'll make a pun.
Yeah, what do you think? Should we do Only You Can Prevent Fake News?
I like that one. I think
All
that's straight to the point.
And it's the popular one on Showbot too. Wow, Showbot reminder. All right. I barely had it out of my mouth. Showbot reminder was declaring it the winner. It's better than CNN.
I know. Wasn't New Hampshire just called for Clinton today? Like the total.
I don't know.
They finally finished counting everything.
Have they? Have they actually? I haven't seen anything about
For
them.
New Hampshire they did.
Well,
So.
no, for the entire.
Oh
thing.
no, I don't know. For
They'll still be counting for a while.
Yeah.
Well, at least you were right. W. Scott is one's like, I triggered Showbot reminder a little premature. Sorry, I thought you guys had decided. And I'm like, well, we did decide the way, so maybe you were prescient. You weren't wrong. Tom Merritt and Veronica Belmont. No, Tom Merritt and Patrick Beja. More like. Only you can prevent forest fires. Oh, Tinvac, I know. Good news, everyone, is pretty awesome. I think if left to my own devices, that might have been the way I went, but this one's good too.
No Futurama love. You know what? I like Futurama. I've never been like a super hardcore fan of Futurama.
I always hesitate to call myself a hardcore fan of anything because there will always be somebody's like, oh, well, can you name his dog in episode 7? I'm like, no, I can't. But I have a great love of Futurama.
Do you remember the name of the dog from Petticoat Junction?
No.
Neither can I, and it used to bother me.
Fry. What was Fry's dog's name? I actually don't remember.
He had a dog?
Yeah. That's the whole reason that he ended up getting sent to the future is he was chasing after the dog.
Just remember, I'm not a fan of the show. Like, I watch it and I enjoy the show, but
wait. No, he was delivering the pizza.
Yeah, he was delivering a pizza.
But the dog waited for him outside the pizza place.
Seymour Asses.
Is that the name? Yeah, that's the name. Oh, nice. Seymour
Butts.
No, that's a different dog.
The name of
That's
the dog.
the title of the book, Under the Bleachers.
The name of the dog in Petticoat Junction was either dog or boy. They just called the dog dog.
I had a friend whose cat was named Cat, K-A-T. Cat was commissioner of our fantasy baseball league for a short period of time. His dog was named Pooch. Slightly more inventive. Pooch was the commissioner for a long time until Django took over.
She really changed it up.
Yeah. In fact, our fantasy league's trophy is named the Pooch Trophy after Pooch the dog.
You sure pooched that one.
No.
Oh, no.
Don't do it.
What?
Django is spelled Jango after Django Fett.
Yeah.
Not after Django Reinhardt.
Because Django was also donated her DNA to an army of clones.
Yes. That's their plan. She will build an army of dog clones. And she will give rise to the Empire. No, I don't. We've joked about cloning Django, but I don't think we'll ever. We should totally clone Django and name the dog Boba, shouldn't we?
Boba.
Django Fetch. Yes, exactly. Almost there. The export is almost done. There we go. Well, chat room, I hope you enjoyed the discussion today. I will definitely be turning my notes for this episode into a post on the Patreon. Maybe I'll even do a Tech Republic top 5 about it. If you haven't checked out, Tech Republic started posting new top 5s from me, hosted by me.
Written by you.
Written by me, shot and produced by Joe Theater Monkey, and edited by someone at Tech Republic who they have not actually told me the name of yet. Yeah, exactly. And no choice but to name a clone of Django Boba. It's fairly true. All right. Upload this bad boy. I got to go to the grocery store.
Groceries. I guess that tax passed up here. The sugar tax for sodas.
Tax on sodas. Yeah.
It's pretty much. It's like a penny.
I mean,
per ounce, I think.
I guess. I don't know.
Well, it supposedly works, at least according
if
to.
If it works, yeah.
I mean, a lot of it was based.
I don't drink a lot of soda, so I'm kind of the wrong person to say because it's not going to affect me. Also, I don't live there, so there's another reason it's not.
Well, they based it on the experience in Berkeley, but also in Mexico, where they instituted.
What about New York? I mean, I know the New York lobby threw in a ton of money to the campaign.
Yeah, but he did it on a specific size, like supersized. I don't remember. Was it based on actual sugar?
I don't know.
I thought it was just soda, like quantity sized. Like if you bought like a big gulp or something, you would be charged more.
See, you're about to put out fake news, Roger, by not really knowing but saying things.
Sorry. Although will qualify, I did not say that this was news or.
No,
but anyway,
that's where people get in trouble. Is like, no, I'm pretty sure, and then people are like, well, my friend said he was pretty sure.
Well, no, but I do know the one from Mexico was considered a success because they managed to reduce the amount of consumption of sodas. I guess really the biggest test is really long term. If you see a marked reduction in obesity and diabetes related.
Diabetes.
It's so funny because he flogged oatmeal. Isn't oatmeal with sugar? Was oatmeal that? No, I guess that's good.
No, the Quaker Oats doesn't have sugar. The one there are oatmeals with sugar, but not the one he.
I'm thinking of the Quaker Oats instant. Like the cream, the strawberry, they make the
ones we had in the Tech TV kitchen had sugar in them.
Yes, but those were Quaker Oats.
They were Quaker Oats brand, but they weren't the ones he advertised. He advertised the unsweetened.
The one with the Quaker on it.
Yeah,
the big round cylinder. It was designed to invoke the theme of a silo. Hardiness. That's a joke.
I don't get
I'm literally throwing
silo.
Like in a farm, you have a big grain silo.
You mean the packaging for Quaker Oats is just a cylinder? Not all
know,
cylinders are silos, Roger.
When
the world sees cylinders as silos, then something will happen to the farms. Is probably a saying somewhere. If all you have is silos, then everything looks like grain.
What do you have to miss a silo?
I don't even know.
Whatever it is, I think I see it's a Quaker Oats cylinder to me.
I mean, it is full of grain. I'll give you that. I have a feeling we're going to get emails about this episode.
That's good.
Like it when you say it's their responsibility to do things. And I tried to make the point, and maybe I didn't make it firmly enough. We'll see. That we're not saying that it's also not the responsibility of Facebook and Twitter and others to foster a system that encourages accuracy. And I think Patrick hopefully made that.
Yeah. I mean, I understood what, of course I'm also one of those people that people go, oh, you're just one of those people. Really, which is just don't uncritically consume things.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
It's essentially, if you boil it down, just don't uncritically consume things.
Oh my gosh, how many times have we talked about that on East Meets West, right?
Well, considering our narrow band.
No, I'm not saying that we've had an effect in any stretch, but yeah, it's something we've been talking about for a long time.
Just write me in as president. I will have as many worthy people to fill cabinet levels
As any of them.
All
right. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. We'll be back tomorrow with Mr. Scott Johnson, and I will talk to you then. Bye.